Hi, this is Louie. Today I will be looking at sanding and finishing lumber. The purpose of sanding wood is to remove marks caused by woodworking machines as well as to remove other flaws such as dents and gouges. So now we're moving on to orbital sander. The orbital sander is located in the wood cabinet, and different grid numbers of sandpapers are located right next to it. So in terms of preparation, first we need to select a place where air ventilation is good. So if indoor doesn't have an air ventilation, it is recommended to use orbital sander outside. For this studio particularly, we are normally using orbital sander outside the studio. And then before we start using the sander, we should make sure to wear PPE, which is personal protective equipment. So we should wear goggles and ear plugs, and potentially masks if necessary. The first thing that I will be looking at is sandpaper grid numbers. So the grid number of sanding product kind of demonstrates the size of the particles that it can be taken out. So the lower the number, the more material they remove and more noticeable scratches they create. A higher number indicates smaller particles which don't remove as much material but leave a finer, more polished appearance. So we should use multiple grid size to sand a project, and starting with lower number grids and moving up to the scale to finer and higher number grids. And each higher number grid removes scratches from the previous grid. Firstly, we will choose a grid numbers that work for any situations or levels that we might apply, and particularly we should pay attention on the holes on each sandpapers, which should be aligned on the holes onto the orbital sander, because while the sander is grabbing particles away, these holes are going to serve as a function of collecting dust into the small bags of the orbital sander. So the first step of how to use an orbital sander is to turn on the sander and let it spin up to full speed before making contact with the material. And this kind of idea is applied for most machines involving with woodworking. And secondly, lift the sander off the material before turning it off, so like direction, according to the wood grain. So the effects would not be that ideal if the sander going against the wood grain rather than going with the wood grain. One thing that is important to keep in mind while using orbital sander is that we shouldn't press down on the sander, because while using the sander we should only allow it to sand under light pressure, because if we press down it will slow down the operator, and it would potentially cause the sander being much less efficient and will after we finish sanding, one thing that is important to do before we apply oil and other finishing products is to remove the dust. Wood dust from sanding will cause problems if it's not removed from the surface before sanding. Now we're moving to finish oils. The products we're using is for oiling is called Danish oil. Firstly is recommended to read the instructions at the back of the products. And before we use, we should shake container thoroughly and test for color on hidden section of wood. And this is to ensure uniform color and for appearance. So in order to complete the entire project with the same stain color. And for application, firstly, we'll use a clean cloth rag to slowly apply the Vaco oil on the surface. We should keep in mind that this is not to apply in direct sunlight, so the preferable condition will be when the air and surface temperatures are between 55 to 90 degree, and there's not that much humidity. So when we start applying, the oil should be flooded surface using brush or cloth. So it should be the oil on the surface should be more than enough to be allowed it to sink under the surface, and then we should wait to allow the oil to penetrate for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, we should reapply and allow another additional 15 minutes to penetrate. After total 30 minutes, the surface should be wiped completely dry and ready for use in 8 to 10 hours. So basically, before we apply to another coat of the oil, we should wait from 8 to 10 hours.